Hey everyone! This is a tutorial for our new AI feature in Magic 2.5, which lets you create visuals just by prompting. You can see here that I have the AI prompt window open, and it's accessed from the window menu here. The prompting is a pay-as-you-go feature, and you do have to buy credits in your Magic account, which you can access here, but it's pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to show it in this tutorial. Once you've bought some credits, you just copy and paste your prompting key from your account into this menu item, and then you're ready to go. I'm going to start with a simple prompt that shows how everything works, and then we'll get into some more advanced stuff. For this prompt, you can see that I've selected Claude Sonnet because it's a pretty good balance of price, performance, and speed, but there are other models available, and they're always being updated, so you should feel free to experiment with them. I'm going to enter the prompt white circle and click the Submit button, and then we'll wait a few seconds to see the result. And now you can see that there's a nice white circle in the scene. The prompting creates a module for you, which you can see here, and it's automatically connected to the Magic module. The reason the prompt window is called the ISF AI prompt window is that the prompting creates modules in the interactive shader format, which is a format developed by Vidvox, and there's a whole ecosystem of tools, websites, and sample effects you can access if you want to learn more. The links are in the description. You can see that the AI has automatically generated some parameters even though I didn't specifically ask for them, which is actually kind of nice because it gives you a good place to start. And it's also automatically named the module, but if you don't like the name, you can rename it here. Once you've renamed the module, that name will stay there, and we'll see why that's useful later on. Because the module is an ISF module, there are some ISF-specific things you can do with it, as shown in the module menu here. Probably the most relevant thing you can do is open the associated file in a text editor, and then you can see the underlying metadata and code, which you can edit and then reload in Magic if you need to. Also in the text file here at the bottom is the prompt you used, the model you used, and how many credits the prompt cost. So let's go back to Magic because a white circle by itself really isn't that interesting. So I'm going to do some further edits with prompting. When you're making further edits to a module, you just want to make sure it's selected and that its name appears in the title bar of the prompt window. That lets you know which module you're editing. And as a quick note, if you want to create a new module from scratch instead of editing an existing one, you just make sure no module is selected by clicking anywhere in the background, and then you can see that the name disappears in the prompt window title. So let's reselect the circle module, and the next edit I'd like to make is to add a hue parameter to control the color of the circle. So I'll just type in add a hue parameter, and we'll wait a few seconds. And there's our hue parameter. You can also see that the prompt history is saved in the prompt window in case you need to refer to it for any reason. And if we go back into the text editor here, you can see that the entire prompt history for this specific file is also saved here, which can be really useful for keeping track of what you did, especially if you've done many edits. Another thing I want to quickly mention is that undo and redo are available for prompting, which means that if you don't like the prompt result, you can easily go back to the previous one. So I'll press Ctrl-Z to go to the previous version of the module, which doesn't have the hue parameter, and then Ctrl-Y to go back to the latest version, which does have the hue parameter. Another thing to be aware of is that the module automatically gets a number appended to show the version, which is really handy for undo and redo. But if you don't like that number being there, you can turn it off here in the scene menu. Okay, so what I want to do now is link one of the parameters, so I'll link the radius to my voice. And the reason I'm doing this is that now I'm going to do yet another prompt, and that prompt will be add a 3D toggle. So we'll submit that, and what's going to happen is that even though the prompting technically generates an entirely new module to replace the old one, Magic still attempts to retain as much of the previous module configuration as possible. And that's one of the real benefits of the workflow here in Magic, because you can just keep going with your edits and not worry about losing your customized module parameter settings. I'll unlink my voice now so that you can more easily see what the 3D toggle does. I want to make one last edit to show that the prompting can not only affect how things look, but also how they move. And so I'll ask the AI to make the circle bounce like a ball. And we'll wait a few seconds here. And then you can see that the circle is bouncing nicely. Okay, let's start with a new scene. I want to show another new feature in Magic 2.5, which is the ISF shader module, which you can find here in the special menu when you add a module. And all the ISF shader module does is let you load an ISF file directly into the module. This is different than the way Magic used to work, where you had to add ISF files in your additional module folders, as shown in this menu item here. But that was a little bit annoying because you had to restart Magic to recognize new files. Now you don't have to do that. You can just load them directly into the ISF shader module, as I'll quickly demonstrate here. Even when you create an ISF shader module this way, by loading a file into it, you can still modify the module with prompting, which is really nice if you have a bunch of existing ISF files lying around on your computer, or ones you like on the ISF website, but that you may want to tweak a little bit. Let's go to this other tab I've set up in this project, because I want to make really clear that you can use prompting to create not just generative graphics and animation, but effects that use an input. So here you can see that I have a scene with just a video file playing. And what I'll do now is insert an ISF shader module after the video file module. The ISF shader module won't do anything to begin with. It will just pass the video through. But if I select that ISF shader module by clicking it, I can now go to my prompt window, and for this prompt I'll ask for an effect that inverts the color of the input. So now, no matter what is connected to this module, it will just invert it. And you can see that the colors of the video are inverted. As another quick example, I'll undo that, go back to the prompt window, and ask for a kaleidoscope effect. And we can see that a nice kaleidoscope effect has been created with a few convenient parameters to start with. Both the invert effect and the kaleidoscope effect are things you can already do in Magic with existing modules, but I just wanted to show the power of the AI to help you create any effect you can imagine. And I'm sure if you play around with it, you'll come up with some things that you couldn't do in Magic otherwise, or maybe at least that you couldn't do very easily or very quickly. The last thing I want to cover in this tutorial is just the idea that all the AI models have some amount of inherent randomness, which means that if you use the same prompt at different times, you'll get different results. So it's worth trying a few different times, and maybe with different models, to see if you get something you like better. Here I've set up a project with a few different scenes, and in each scene I've used the exact same prompt to create a module, and that prompt is laser beams. And if we click on the different tabs, you can see what kind of different results I've gotten. Some of them are really cool, and some are kind of basic. So overall, it's worth experimenting, taking some time, and having some patience to see what happens. That's it for this tutorial. Again, we've put some helpful links in the description, and we also encourage you to visit our forums if you have any questions. That's really the place where we can get into deep discussions about any technical or creative topics. Thanks everyone, and we hope you enjoy.